Hello everyone, Alistair Gold here. Yes, it's going to be one of those videos. You know what? I had a little bit of kind of hope in midweek. Went to Molineux, went to the Wolves game, and I could see little strands, little green shoots where I thought, okay, there's some positives here. Can see where we're going with this. Okay, maybe it's going to be a little bit better. And I don't know. I just went to the Emirates. Got that familiar sense of dread as I walked up from Finsbury Park Station and just kind of reminded myself just how awful Spurs always are, pretty much, at the Emirates. Saw two Arsenal fans with their Arsenal shirts on wearing half and half scarves. I knew at that point it was going to be a bad day. I don't think I realised just how bad it was going to be from Tottenham. I mean, Nuno Espirito Santo's, one of his first things he says is, "We're going to make you proud." I think he made a lot of people sick, quite frankly. It was that, but that first half was right up there with the most inept, awful football I've seen Tottenham produce in a match, let alone in a North London derby. It was disgusting. It was. There's really no other way to put it. It was disgusting, and Nuno knew it. The players knew it. They really did. And Nuno made a really big thing, and I asked him about after the game about this. He made this big thing before it about saying this, this is special. This is not just any other match, any match. This is a different match. It wasn't different. It was dreadful, absolutely dreadful. I've never seen players so lacking in desire and enthusiasm for a North London derby. The game plan, as Nuno admitted, and we're going to talk about, was all just horribly wrong. Oh wow! I mean, where do we start? I mean, let's start right from the beginning. The team selection itself. Okay. I almost got my predicted team right, actually. I think the only difference I had Romero at centre back, and I had rather than Davinson Sanchez. I got a little bit of flack for it before, mostly after the game, obviously, but from before, because I said, I think before the match, something like, I personally would have gone with Romero, but I can understand from his point of view why he has returned to the back four that kept 3 clean sheets in the first 3 games. I can see that, especially one that, albeit with a little bit of a luck in those first 20 minutes, kept a clean sheet against Man City. I could just about understand it. And there's also some indications that Christian Romero may be still having some issues with his knee. Galini touched on it in an interview after the Wolves game. I think he's still having some little problems with it. So maybe the idea was, we'll ask him this in his press conference tomorrow, but maybe the idea was that Romero making 3 starts in a row, having come back from, that time in Croatia, which I know a lot of people say, well, he was resting. But still, if he has that knee issue still, to make 3 starts in a row, maybe that was considered to be a thing. I don't know. We'll find out tomorrow. But I kind of understood the logic of returning to that defence that had conceded no goals, especially when you've conceded goals aplenty in, what was it, 3 against Palace, 3 against Chelsea, 2 against Wolves. So, you'd had 8 goals in the last 3 games. I could kind of understand the logic of going back to that, although, understandably, some people on Twitter were like, well, you don't leave out your best player, your best defender, and I get that. But I understood the logic of it. Elsewhere on the pitch, I kind of knew that he was going to go, I thought he was going to go Højbjerg on Dembele Ali, although personally, I thought Oliver Skipp was very, very good against Wolves and probably deserved to start again. And I'm very much, I don't know whether it's an old school thing or not, but I'm very much of the sensibility that, or thinking that, you need players in a North London derby who understand what that match means. And I just feel like Skippy would have done, well, we saw it in the second half. He immediately came on in the second half and clattered into a couple of big challenges on Arsenal players. I felt like, if you remember at the start of the Man City match, Japhet Tanganga put in a big clattering challenge. I think it was on Grealish. And it just kind of set the tone for the rest of the match. Very much all the other players were like, yeah, all right, let's have it kind of thing. And I just felt that Skippy doing that at the start of the second half maybe set the tone slightly for the second half, but Spurs didn't have anyone doing that from the off. Yeah, and I mean, people could make a case for Brian Hill as well. I thought he was really good against Wolves again. I think probably with Lucas coming back to fitness and Son being available, I think probably it would have been unlikely that Hill started. I think that would have been a bit of a reach for us to kind of suggest that was likely to happen. But I think Skip, certainly. But the biggest thing, the phrase I keep hearing, which is what makes it even more ridiculous, is that Nuno's used this in the past. Lloris used it after Sunday's game. We're all just too far away from each other, as in the players on the pitch. And, I think, well, to be honest, I don't really need to go into it too much in terms of if you've seen Jamie Carragher's analysis. I didn't watch it live last night, but I've watched it this morning. And it's absolutely spot on. It really does absolutely pick apart the atrocious positioning of the midfield three, really. Ali and Ondembele were just so up the pitch, so far up that they were making no real impact in the centre. It was almost... It's one of those where the fact that Nuno has complained about players being too far away from each other, I just personally, I can't work out whether he wanted them to be there or the players have just drifted there naturally because they know the defence are going to whack out long balls. Why are the defence not whacking out long balls for a start? I have no idea. But they just seem to, the fullbacks were often kind of pumping it up the pitch. I didn't get it. I just didn't get it. It was a really good analysis, and I watched it. And during the game, there were a lot of points. I mean, the first goal especially, we saw Højbjerg and Ondembele just kind of going for a Sunday stroll to get back. Dele Alli, to be fair to him, made a bit of a sprint. He was further up the pitch, but he couldn't really get there either. And then you saw, let's go to the third goal, you saw Harry Kane having to sprint the length of the pitch to try to stop Saka, and obviously, unfortunate in a way, just presenting him with the ball with the sliding challenge. But I couldn't see, Nuno after the game, he did this very brutally honest kind of press conference where he just said, it's all my fault. He said, it was one of those where Mourinho used to do this, but it was a little bit more obvious when Mourinho did it. It was one of those where you're claiming responsibility, but you are kind of leaving a little bit at the player's door as well. Because what essentially Nuno said was, I got the game plan wrong, or I guess I selected the wrong players for the game plan I wanted, because those players were not able to execute it. It's kind of what he said. His press conference was a little bit different. I went afterwards, I listened back to his Sky interview, which was a little bit more revealing, I felt. And I think, for me, the 4-3-3, which, funnily enough, is something I think a lot of probably fans have wanted to see, but this isn't the 4-3-3 I think a lot of fans have wanted to see. I've given Dele Alli some praise for how he's adapted to a role that doesn't really hugely suit him on the left of a three. I think he's made the best of it, but on days like Sunday, you just saw why it didn't work at all. And like I say, I don't want to look like I was skipping that subject, but pardon the expression, you just skipping there. But I just still cannot make up my mind whether the players were just doing what they wanted to do, which is worrying in itself, or whether the tactics really was for Højbjerg to sit deep and the other two midfielders to almost be pushed up with the three up front and then whack long balls. I just can't imagine that is the case. I just can't see it. Which again, like I say, is equally worrying because the players then were just wandering. But seriously, would Tottenham in the North London derby just be looking to play the percentages, whack the ball up long and direct? I've seen people say, "Oh, but that's Nuno's style." It's not really Nuno's style. It's not. He's kind of got a weird hybrid. Almost some people have said that possession-wise, he can kind of be a bit boring the other way. They maybe have the ball too much and don't penetrate at the top of the pitch. I'm going to expand on this later, but I still don't think this is the Nuno Espirito Santo Tottenham Hotspur. I still don't. I really hope it's not, because it's first half especially was horrendous. But But yeah, it was just an absolute mess of a game plan. And for me personally, I've seen some people saying, let's just do what he feels comfortable and let's have the back three kind of thing. Personally, other than the one season when Eric Dyer was in the middle of a back three for Poch, I'm trying to remember whether it was the Leicester or Chelsea winning this season. It might have been Chelsea, yeah. Other than that year, Spurs have looked naff with a back three. When Mourinho tried it, they looked awful. When Nuno's tried it, did he try it at Pesos, did he? I think they've just looked appalling. It just hasn't really worked at all. I think personally, 4-2-3-1. I think it suits Spurs. I think it gets the best out of the players involved. I think, some people might say, oh, but if you play Skip and Højbjerg in the pivot there, that's too much. It's too much defensive. I don't think it is, because I think you're then freeing up the third person, or the number 10, as it were, whoever that may be. If that's on Dembele and he's playing in a more advanced role with lesser defensive responsibility. And I'm not saying a number 10 like a Dele Alli would play it, right, pushed up right next to Kane. I'm saying one who is essentially it's almost a 4-3-3, but with a 2 and then a 1 in front. That, I can kind of see working. It might be Hill. I think they're kind of looking at him potentially to play that role as well, or Lo Celso, whoever you want to go. I just feel the 4-2-3-1 it ensures you don't have those huge gaps between the three banks as you have in a 4-3-3. I think that has been Spurs' problem, is that they look and just midfield are nowhere to be seen, and maybe that is why they're just lumping it forward. It's just so poor. It was just like the second half was better. The changes helped. I thought Emerson, did better, but then we've got to hugely caveat it with the fact that Arsenal, clearly at 3-0 up, are stepping down the gears. Of course they are. They really are. But it was better. There were little moments. I thought Hill was very good again. Showed that desire. It was all about him winning the ball for the consolation goal. Him sliding in, getting it to Reguilon, playing it low to Son to score. Even the aftermath of that, I actually found it embarrassing. I thought at the time, Son's really kind of G'ing them up. And then I watched back, there was a video last night. He's trying to get players bothered about a North London derby. I just think that's so ridiculous. You look at him and he goes up, and Hill looks pumped up. Hill is there and he's excited. He's a young guy. He's just helped get a goal in a derby and he's all pumped up. Son is going up to every player like, come on, kind of thing. And I may be reading it wrong. I might have been watching it wrong. I might not have got the full context of what was going on. But it was almost like he was going over to Kane and Højbjerg and almost having to convince them that Spurs had a chance still. And, Kane was almost like, again, I couldn't hear what they were saying, so I don't want to be putting something on. I'm just saying what it looked like with my eyes, but it looked like Kane was like, okay, yeah, we will. And Højbjerg was like, all right. And it was a bit like, Kane and Højbjerg are meant to be two of the leaders in that team. They're meant to be setting the tone, not having to be convinced. I didn't like that at all. Again, I apologise to both of them. Not that they'll probably ever hear this or be bothered what I'm saying. If I've got it wrong, I do apologise though. But it just looked like two of the big influencing players on the team having to be convinced that they still had a chance. And what I would say is, this is as ridiculously awful as the first half was, as poor as Tottenham were, they actually had enough moments and opportunities in the second half to kind of start turning the game. I'm not entirely saying that they would have got the point or anything, but, Arsenal, there would have been some fragility there. You look at, obviously Spurs scored. Kane had that chance that went wide, but I think it was offside anyway. You had the penalty claim, which for me, I think looked like, whether it was a penalty or a free kick I'm not entirely sure, but it looked like a foul. You had Lucas hitting the bar with that deflected shot that Ramsdale did really well to save. Had a Kane shot that Ramsdale pushed aside. There were enough little moments. If that Lucas effort creeps in and it's 3-2 with a couple of minutes left, there really is something to play for. And yeah, just everything about the day was off. Everything was wrong. We'll talk about Harry Kane briefly. It's not too much to add to his normal things. It got a lot of flack afterwards. I'd say personally, I'm using the word personally a lot today. I'm sorry about that. I've noticed that. But I'd say he was marginally better than previous games. And probably people are going like, oh? But I just think there were moments where he tried to make things happen by himself. He tried to take pop shots from a little bit of distance. He tried to drag players out of position. The run back, yes, it was daft losing the ball where he did, but he did try to get back for Arsenal's third goal. I wouldn't say it was as dreadful as I feel he has been in some matches since he's come back. But this is the thing, and I've seen, some people understandably said after the game, should Kane be dropped? On form? Potentially, maybe. But the flip side is, as you heard me moaning about after transfer window, they didn't get an Eriksen replacement, they didn't get another striker. So kind of you're left then of, maybe yes, you return to the three at the start. If Bergwijn was fit, or you put Hill in there and you have, Son and Lucas, and Son leads the line. But you still should have another natural striker to be able to play there instead of Harry Kane, to take Harry Kane out of the spotlight when he's not playing particularly well. Dane Scarlett, it's a dream for him, I'd imagine, at 17 years old, to be on the bench week in, week out in Premier League matches. But clearly, we've seen little bits of him. He's going to be a fantastic player, hopefully, as long as he keeps his head down. But is he ready to be Kane's replacement right now? Of course he's not. He's 17 years old. And people go, oh, look at Wayne Rooney and all that. It's like, no, he was a bit of a freak, Wayne Rooney, in the way he was physically and all of that. A lot of 17-year-olds are not ready yet. And to replace the England captain, he's not. Spurs messed up for me. They did. They needed another striker. I know there's this thing of who can you bring in? Who is good enough? Can't just buy any old striker. But I still kind of feel like a focal point striker still would have done better than Harry Kane in some of the games this season. And I think it was a big miss. I think it's something they're going to have to address in January. I really, really do. So, where to go? It was just so poor. It really was. And it was like, I've seen people kind of afterwards say, like, oh, where are you going to find the positives from that? And I don't know. I don't think it's a slightly false impression of me. It's like, I don't look for the positives in stuff. I think I look to be balanced. I hope. I think that's what I try to do. So yeah, I had a lot of, this is the thing I noticed on Twitter. You get a lot of angry people who want to say a lot of angry things. And that was one of the things. Like, how are you going to turn this into a positive gold? And it's like, I don't know. I don't look to make a positive. I just want to make everyone look at the full picture. But from that Arsenal game, the full picture was, it was rubbish. There is nothing. I won't dress up a terrible performance as something positive for the sake of it. I just try to look all around something. Because I think sometimes when we get ultra emotional, we will only look at the bad things. But I think emotion aside, I think Sunday was just an absolute disaster. Even the Chelsea game, we could say first half was positive. It was at the time. I think all at half time, all of us were saying, okay, that's better. No, not at Arsenal. I even asked Nuno after the game, I was like, can you take anything from that second half? Any positives you can pluck from it to try and use with the players? And he said, no. He said, you can't. He said, in an analysis, you can't take anything from that match that's a positive. And that's good. That's what I want to hear in a way. So, yeah, the stats. Oh, I'm sure you've seen the stats. Just how poor Spurs are across every department right now. But I think, the one that worries me the most, and some people might be surprised at this because you might be thinking, oh, it's shots or it's chances created or all that. The one that worries me the most is distance covered. And for Tottenham, they're 20th. That's appalling. It's absolutely appalling. And that will sting Nuno the most because that was one thing about his Wolves team was that they were very fit and they covered a lot of ground. They did a lot of running, a lot of work. And for me, I think that a lot of that has to be on the players. That indicates to me a lack of effort, which is just wrong. It's an appalling stat to see that. Any team that is in the bottom half of the running stats should be embarrassed by what they're doing. Is it not working hard enough? Is it not working smart enough on the pitch? It's just, I don't know. It's a lot of it is just boringly predictable now, and it's like even the last 24 hours or so, we're seeing those stories again about the players don't like training, the players don't like Nuno. Do you know what? Maybe it's just me, but I'm so wary of those kind of stories. And that's purely because we see it with every manager. We saw it with Poch towards the end. We saw it with Mourinho. I think even Mason had stories complaining about him and his training and stuff like that. And now Nuno's getting it as well. And it's like kind of attacks on his personality and his training sessions. And I don't know. It's just this sniping behind the scenes, presumably from players who aren't playing regularly. I can only presume it is. Or people involved with those players. I'm not saying it is those players as well, but why is the go-to option every single time it's the manager? It's the manager. Every time. Oh, yeah, the manager's training is rubbish. Oh, we're so bored of it. Oh, it's so stale. That was the one under Poch. And it was all the manager's grumpy. Mourinho was grumpy. Nuno's grumpy. At what stage do we just say every time the players are... Why are we looking each time for the manager that makes the players happy? You know, Nuno after the game had the players back. He was absolutely taking it on his shoulders. Do the players have his back? Do the players have any managers back? You know, I'm sorry if that's really harsh, but I'm so sick of those stories. It's just, if it was a one-off, I could maybe say, okay, fair enough, maybe there's some issues there. But the fact that you hear the same story, almost word for word, with each manager, it's almost like the players kind of have this God-given right of it's not our fault, it's theirs. They're not doing it right. And I don't like that. You know, I'm sorry, you've probably heard me moan about that before. But I just feel it kind of, it maybe says more about them than it does the managers brought in to kind of try to train them. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. So, what next for Nuno? I've seen of course, Nuno out was trending. Of course it was. And I've had a lot of people telling me repeatedly. People don't like it sometimes when they don't get replied to me. I must stress, I'm sorry if you don't get a reply from me, but for some reason, some crazy reason, I do have a decent amount of followers. And that means my notifications are insane, especially after matches, most days, to be honest. And I probably see a fraction of what replies and things come through. I really don't see much. I try to reply when I can, but I've seen, a lot of people saying, like, you know, how can you defend him? How can this? How can that? Look, can Nuno do better? Absolutely he can. Absolutely he can. What happened on Sunday was a disgrace. It was. There was no defending the players or Nuno for Sunday. It was an utter disgrace of a football performance. Would I also say that he has lost just 3 matches? Yes, he has. And I get some people are saying, and I understand their point of view, they're saying, but it's not going to change. We've already seen what Nuno is and blah, blah, blah. And that's what they're saying. Okay. But what I would say is, you know, if Tottenham get rid of Nuno Espirito Santo after 6 Premier League matches, it says more about Tottenham Hotspur for me than it does about Nuno Espirito Santo. You know, he was Premier League Manager of the Month. He was just awarded that, 2-3 weeks ago, he was given that. And now he's had 3 really poor matches in the Premier League. He has. You know, 9 goals conceded, 3 derbies. That's atrocious. But, again, 3 defeats. If we're now at a stage where managers are getting sacked after 3 defeats, and they've only been at the club less than 3 months, I mean, you know, you see that happen in some leagues. You see that happen in... the Italian league can be a little bit volatile like that as well. And if that's where we're going, then what is the point? It really is, because it just means there's no stability. There's no opportunity for someone to build something. Personally, I saw the look in, you know, Nuno's eyes. I thought it was quite brave what he did about taking responsibility, especially when a lot of people were blaming him. It kind of gave them more ammunition. I hope personally he's at the stage that Poch got to, where he just decided, stuff this. I am absolutely not relying on players that are not going to do it for me anymore. I'm not going to make decisions to pander to people. I'm not going to play players just because the club maybe want them played. I'm not going to do things just to make fans happy. I'm going to start doing things that are good for me and I feel are good for Tottenham as a whole. And Poch did that. He changed things. He got rid of the kind of clique of players that had been playing there mostly. He just created a team in his own image that all were hungry and had a desire to play. And I hope Nuno's at that stage. I really do. And if that gets people's backs up, so be it. If it gets the fans' backs up, I think probably so be it as well. If it gets my back up, if it gets the media up, so what? At least if he is going to go out, he's going to go out on his own terms, not just trying to make everyone happy. If you know what I mean? And I've had a bit of fun, as it were, with Nuno in recent press conferences. You've probably seen, he's hopefully in an endearing way has been slightly telling me off. I use that in a bit of a jokingly term in a tweet, and people are like, he's not telling you off. Stop over dramatising it. I wasn't really saying he was telling me off. He is a good guy. Everything I get from him is a good guy. Everyone I know that worked with him says he's a good guy. And yes, I know being a good guy is not enough. Nice guys, finish last or whatever the silly expression is. And he's got a lot of work to do. But I just kind of feel he should be given a chance to just do what Nuno wants to do. I will continue to go back to the fact I don't think he's had much time to work with the players. He's barely had his full squad to work with. We've got another international break next week as well, which is mind-boggling. And we've got South American players. We've got Emerson to add to that now as well. And potentially, looks like there might be some changes to the whole isolation things, but they may still, if they play the final game of their series, may then miss the game when they return, which I think is Newcastle away. He just hasn't had time to properly work with all his players. He's had injuries. He's had absences. He's had the Kane saga, the Ndombele saga. I'm not going to go through it all again. But I don't know. Maybe I'm trying to be too fair. I don't know. Maybe people are right. Maybe these people that say, just cut ties now. But I just don't think I'm like that. I don't think I just don't like that in football. I don't like not giving someone a chance to actually show their real self. Don't like it at all. And you know what? I think the biggest indication if Spurs were to sack Nuno right now would be what it says about Daniel Levy, Enoch, the hierarchy, whatever you want to say. Because they made a big decision this summer, and that was to bring in Fabio Paratici, and Fabio Paratici wanted to appoint Nuno Espirito Santo. He was given the opportunity to do that, and if you now sack the man he's chosen, just less than 2.5 months, whatever it is, into having started work, you're undermining Paratici and everything you've looked to change at the club, and you're saying, well, I'm giving you control, but I don't like what you're doing. And it's a bit like, and for me, that would entirely sum up a lot of decision making in recent years. I did on the podcast with Guesty this week. I made use the metaphor of Tottenham's decision making, or Tottenham Hotspur in general. It's just like a carrier bag kind of drifting in the breeze. They really are. You just don't know which way they're going to go next. We're not talking American Beauty here, where you see beauty in a carrier bag in a breeze. This is very much ugly. It's not beautiful at all. It's very much, you look at it and, if Levy were to get rid of Nuno, that would be the 4th manager who left their post in less than 2 years. Yeah, it would be, wouldn't it? Poch, Mourinho, Mason, of course, was a caretaker thing, and then Nuno. It would just be embarrassing. It really, really would. And a lot of people say Spurs started to go wrong from the Champions League final onwards. I don't think I've ever believed that. I think I've always felt it was from those 2 transfer windows. Was it the 18-19 season? Well, it was the summer and the next one, wasn't it? It was. I just think since those moments, everything has gone wrong, pretty much. Yes, I mean people will say, "Oh, but you still got to the Champions League final and you finished top four." But I think that's down to Poch. I think that was Poch working miracles. I just think the decision making has just been an inconsistent mess. Since that moment, you've seen Poch not backed in those two windows. Some people at the club will tell you Poch didn't want certain players that were offered. But either way, to go two windows without strengthening his squad when it was the real key point when Tottenham could have pushed on, it's pretty much unforgivable, isn't it? It really is. And then since then, the decision making has just gone like, it's just got worse and worse and worse. I'm not even going to go into the whole furloughing Super League stuff because we spoke about that at length, just purely from a football perspective. Poch not being backed, and then, yes, maybe he lost some motivation, but he may have lost motivation because of what he was just seeing around him. So then you get rid of Pochettino because Mourinho becomes available. Mourinho, who, let's be honest, is the absolute antithesis of Pochettino and Tottenham and the project football that they were trying to do. They were blinded, I guess, by and I understand it, the excitement of his CV, the trophies, everything he's done in football, which has been incredible. But as a bedfellow for Tottenham, it was never really going to work. And I think we saw that. So then the Mourinho experiment fails. Then they decide, we had this grand proclamation after Mason's little caretaker tenure of, I will get you a manager who will bring you free-flowing, entertaining, attacking football. Don't you worry, everyone. And they start to look at candidates in that vein, and you're thinking, okay, it's taken a while, but okay, you've got a clear idea. You've finally got a clear vision. You've stopped flip-flopping from Poch's very different football to Mourinho's very different football, but you've got your idea. And then they like, oh, Fabio Paratici's available. Oh, I've wanted him for ages. So they go off and get Paratici, who comes in and says, hey, I was about to do an Italian accent. I'm not, free-flowing, attacking, entertaining. Oh, that's a little bit too much for me in one direction. In Italy, we prefer balanced football. We prefer a bit of everything, and that's what I want. I don't really want that. And you can imagine probably Daniel Levy's like, oh, but I've promised everyone that now. So you bring in the guy that you've wanted to bring in, and then realise that actually he wants a different kind of football to what you've promised everyone really publicly. So he goes through his candidates, very, very different candidates to what we've seen before. And eventually, the wheel of fate or fortune, whatever you want to call, lands on Nuno Espirito Santo, who Paratici wanted at Juventus at one point. He was one of the candidates for that. So they bring in Nuno, and then if we get, after 3 defeats, Spurs want to rip up the script again, it does. It undermines Paratici. And it says far more than I think about Daniel Levy and the decision making. It's so inconsistent. It's such a mess. It's like, and I've seen the trust come out this morning. Tottenham Hotspur Supporters Trust have come out and they've asked the club, but can we have a meeting to discuss exactly with the executive board what is the short-term vision and the long-term vision? And you know what? 100% understand why they've done that. Because it's very difficult to tell. Every time you think Tottenham has started to get an idea in their head of where they're going, they rip it up and start again and go in a completely different direction. And that's what they do. It is worrying. It is concerning. And I don't get it. I don't understand it. Everything seems to be reactive. Nothing seems to be kind of proactive and really, I personally preferred their original approach in the summer. I made no bones about this. I wanted to have entertaining, exciting football at Tottenham again, of course. And a lot of the names being mentioned, I thought were really progressive, exciting managers. You had Graham Potter, you had Eric Ten Hag, you had obviously Brendan Rodgers was one of them, although it was probably unlikely, wasn't it? Obviously Poch coming back was another potential, and Nagelsmann, Flick, and you saw the names and you thought, okay, I get it. but then to kind of rip up your whole structure, go back to the kind of, it's not even the sporting director structure they had before. It's an even more all-encompassing one. This kind of managing director of football role. Paratici has a lot of power, a lot more than any like the Comleys, the Arnesons of this world, or Baldinis, Mitchells had, and I kind of feel like you have to stick with it. You have to. Because what are you if you don't? What are you? Seriously, what are you as a football club? What is your identity? I will always say that they fluked it with Poch. I really always have felt that, They wanted Van Gaal, that didn't work out. Then they flipped between Frank de Boer was a candidate or Poch. I think most fans probably wanted de Boer at that point. And I think maybe even myself included. I can't remember. I think maybe I did. And they went for Poch. And Poch, absolutely carried that club on his shoulders. He did. Whatever you decided you felt about Poch towards the end, there is no denying that he was the shining light of the ENIC era he has been. Those 5.5 years were some of the best football Spurs have played and the closest they've come to being something. Whether it was a bit of bad luck, whether it was inexperience in the big situations, and they just didn't quite take that next step. But then I just feel that everything that's been since has shown that to be more of a fluke with every passing decision. And it is concerning. Of course it is. And I really, really hope the Trust get this meeting and get some answers, because we in the media don't. Levy obviously doesn't do media stuff. I've asked for a Paratici interview. It hasn't happened yet. I think I'm hopeful I might get it. But obviously, with everything as it is now, am I likely to get it? I don't know. But I will keep asking. Of course I will. But, it just, and I've seen my other issue, I guess, with people saying, get Nuno out now. It's this kind of, I still don't see who you bring in right now. Of course, there's people still banging the Conte drum. And I'm not going to change my views on the whole Conte thing at all, because that would just be kind of doing it for the sake of it. Do I think Antonio Conte is a terrific coach? Of course he is. There is no denying that in between transfer windows, Conte would still do good things with his squad. Of course he was. He's a world-class coach. But it's everything else that comes with Conte for me. It's everything else he would require. We know it. I don't think you can convince yourself that Conte would come to Tottenham and operate on the kind of budgets other managers would. We saw what happened at Chelsea. He spent a lot of money. He went to Inter, spent a lot of money, and they left themselves in real problems. He did. And this is not taking anything away. And it's as much the club's faults for spending the money for him, It may not be that he did demand that. It may be that they just spent it. But the pattern is there. Juventus spent a lot of money, obviously, to win the success. And again, I must stress, I'm not saying he's a bad manager. I'm not saying he's just a checkbook manager. I think coaching-wise, he is terrific. And if in some bizarro world, Tottenham could say to him, look, we're going to bring you in between transfer windows and we can't promise you anything in transfer windows, and he took the job, I think he would be a terrific coach. I think he would still get utterly frustrated and eventually decide to leave of his own accord. But I don't think that. And then you're looking at, if you go beyond Conte, then you're looking at who else is out there. And you are looking at, I've seen some of the names. I'm sorry to sound patronising, but I've seen people saying about Klinsmann and Redknapp and people like that. It's like, no. Look at Klinsmann's club career as a manager. No. Redknapp, Redknapp did some terrific things at Tottenham a long time ago. Harry Redknapp probably doesn't want to get back into management right now, I'd imagine. He's in his mid-70s or something. Just no. And then I think a lot of the other candidates you'd look at they're 6 games in. Why would you leave your club 6 games in for the mess that is going on right now at Tottenham Hotspur? And I must stress, I'm aware that some people will say the fact that I'm even talking about other managers is undermining Nuno, and it's not meant to be. It's merely responding to what other people have said, and it's my view of things. I would give him a little bit more time. And there'll be people listening to this, watching this, whatever, will be going, oh my God, you muppet, shut up. They may well be saying that, and they may be thinking, just stop, it's been awful. But I just still maintain I don't think he's been given a chance. I don't think this is Nuno's Tottenham right now. I just don't think it is at all. I mean, on Conte, the only way I think Conte would work is if Joe Lewis just suddenly went, What? What, do you want some money? And started doing that to it. And let's be honest, we're 21 years in, or 20 years in, isn't it? That hasn't happened in 20 years. It's not likely to happen right now, or ever. So, yeah. Oh, man. Sorry, this has been a 40-minute rant, hasn't it? It really has. I'm sorry, but that's what Tottenham Hotspur do to me. But yeah, I think it's too early. I think if you get rid of Nuno right now and don't give him a chance to do what he can do, look, don't get me wrong. If the result against Aston Villa and the performance are awful, I'd say the Mura game probably isn't as crucial. I think it's a bit of a doesn't really matter match. And I know that sounds awful, but you know what I mean. I think in terms of the grand scheme of everything, I think the Villa game is the bigger game. If the performance and the result of that show that it doesn't even look like there's a positive, then I think, of course, the clamour will grow and conversations will be had. I'm not saying that he's going to get sacked for that, but what I'm saying is doubts will creep in, you'd imagine. But I'd hope Spurs can't be that bad again and at home. And I just hope the players have got a bit of pride as well. Sorry again, you've heard me whinge about this before in the past, but this is such a culture in football of, oh well, if I'm rubbish, I'll still be here next week and the manager will be gone. And the next manager then will pick me and all this sort of stuff. I hate it. I hate it with a passion. And you've probably heard me moan about it with Mourinho and Poch and even Mason. I think I've probably had a moan about it as well. I hate the lack of blame culture for players when things are going wrong as a collective. Individually, players get flack, of course they do. But as a collective, there's never any real responsibility for them. And I really, really don't like that. But what do I know? Well, I'm just some bloke sitting on his couch trying to talk about Tottenham Hotspur. That sounded like I was going to talk about Notting Hill kind of there. I'm just a girl standing in front of a boy telling him she loves it, or so whatever that is. Very different. That's not what I'm saying. Just a boy standing in front of Tottenham Hotspur saying, what a mess. So yeah, big few days ahead for Nuno. He really just has to start not taking charge. I'm not saying he's been weak or anything thus far, but I just think my message to Nuno, to which he'd probably say, Alistair, you cannot ask me these questions. That's his favourite thing at the moment. Or you cannot say this to me. What I would say is, just do it your own way. Block out the noise. Block out the noise from above. Block out the noise from outside. And just do what you want to do with this team. Don't try to please people. Don't try to compromise whatever it is you want to do with Tottenham by trying to make everyone happy at the same time. Just pick the team you want to pick and crack on. If it doesn't work, then at least you can say your style didn't work. But right now, I just think we've got this messy hybrid, which, you know, I've seen people also flip-flopping and saying that his Wolves team was terrible to watch. And I've seen other people saying, or those same people at times, saying, oh, but his Wolves team played some lovely football in the first couple of years they came up from the Championship. It can't be both ways. It can't. You know, I won't ever pretend that I was a huge I want Nuno guy to begin with. I wasn't. You would have seen my videos. This is the point of doing a lot of talking, is what you've said in the past still exists. So at the time, I was very much like, does Nuno fit the brief? No. Am I going to give him a chance and let my own eyes decide? Of course. That's the way I am. And I don't feel like he's had a chance yet for me to really make that judgment. So there we are. Tottenham Hotspur. I'm trying to think if there's anything I've missed out in that 44-minute rant that I've had so far. Moaned about Levy, moaned about decisions, moaned about some of the stuff Nuno's done, I've moaned about the players. Positives, Hill and Skip, so they played well. Does he bring those players in? I think certainly for Mura. Should he against Villa? Maybe. And I know a lot of people will say this is ridiculous as well, but I do think Spurs have missed Steven Bergwijn a bit. I think Steven Bergwijn, people go, how have you missed him when he doesn't even score goals? But I just think his work rate, his positivity, and the direct use of the ball that he has, I think helped Tottenham. I think he was a big part of those first 3 games or so. I think he could do with him having him back. He's not the answer, but I do think he's a helpful option to have as well. And yeah, Villa are going to be a tough team to play. We've seen with their results so far that even without Grealish, they can very much be effective. And Spurs are going to have to pull a finger out. They're going to have to, they're really going to have to work. Oh, sounds awful because this is something that fans hate the players saying. We've got to work hard. Yes, they do have to work hard. That is a basic requirement of what they should be doing. But they've got to show pride in what they're doing as well. And yes, I hope personally that we're at the stage we were with Poch where he was still figuring out his Tottenham Hotspur. He was given a little bit of time and he found it. Different characters, him and Nuno, definitely. Different kinds of ideas, but they also share a lot of the same ideas as well. Hopefully, things turn around. Because I don't want to moan again next week for another 45 minutes or an hour or whatever it is. But yeah, I think we'll probably wrap up there because I've moaned enough. And apologies to have made your day even more depressing. Or maybe it's cathartic. It certainly is cathartic for me. I think I'm loading a lot of the whinging and stuff, whether it be about the club itself, the hierarchy, about the players, the manager, the head coach, whatever. I think it is a good thing, especially sitting on the couch. It is almost like my own therapy session. You are my Dr. Melfi from The Sopranos, which makes me Tony Soprano, which is a little bit weird. Saw the prequel to that. It's very good. But I'm not going to go there. This isn't Alistair Gold's movie reviews. Maybe that could be a YouTube channel a day. I don't know if anyone would actually watch it. But there you go. Right, I'm going to head off now. Got Nuno's press conference tomorrow with a player. Be very interesting to see which player is put up. I'm trying to rack my brains who they'd put up because whoever it is putting themselves in the line of fire in a way. I'd like to see Joe Rodon play tomorrow, but out of interest. That's not to say he did a recent presser. It won't be him, but I'd like to see him given a chance. Joe Rodon must be sitting there thinking, "Huh? You've conceded 11 goals in the last 4 games." I mean, yes, he could argue that yes, he was on the pitch for the Palace game, albeit in a messed up kind of back line that was all over the place and had a red card and penalties and all of this. But Joe Rodon must be sitting there thinking, what am I doing at this football club? You've brought me in. You're not really playing me. Didn't play him against Wolves. I wouldn't be shocked if he doesn't play Joe Rodon much more. He really should be allowed to go out in January somewhere. Because I think Joe Rodon could be a really good player personally. I'd play Rodon and Romero myself in midweek. Give him a chance. But yeah. So press conference tomorrow, the 2 of them. Mura Thursday night. I don't think we'll have a press conference on Friday. I think it's all going to be combined afterwards, but I'll give you the quotes on Friday from what he said on Thursday night. And then Villa on Sunday. Big few days. It always is at Tottenham Hotspur. Why can't they just be boring in a good way? Instead, they could predictably boring in the other way, that something daft is going to happen week in, week out. But yeah, Tottenham Hotspur, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Right, I'm going to head off. As always, stay safe, stay healthy, look after yourselves, and I shall catch you later. Goodbye.